Tommy, do your intro gimmick.
Hi! Welcome to the Capricious Machinations podcast.
Capri Sun Men podcast.
Capri Sun.
All right, we're the Capri Sun Men.
The Capri Sun. I said capricious. That means like chaotic and shit.
I know, but Capri Suns are funny.
Fair enough.
Hey, we're actually Complimentary Mania. I'm Trevor.
And I'm Mania.
This is Tommy. And we're here for episode 4, I believe. Yeah. I can count. I got fingers.
Shit.
The
What
thumb's,
happens
the
when we
thumb's
get...
not a finger, right? So
Well, that technically, but you can still count on it. It's always there. It hasn't
I
left
can't
me
count
yet.
on it. It hasn't left. I've always got it. It's my left and right hand, man. It's on both.
Shit,
Okay.
you've got 2 thumbs?
You don't. Guys, for everyone that can't see, like,
Which is everyone?
because we don't have video for this podcast yet, Tommy doesn't have a thumb. It's missing. He can only count to 9.
I can count to 10.
If you use your, like, stinky finger,
1,
maybe?
2, 3, 4,
Don't
5,
pull it. No.
6,
Stop.
7, 9, 10.
Yay. Enough about counting in Capri Suns. We're not preschoolers. What are we talking about today?
I forget.
Well, dementia, unfortunately, isn't our subject today. We'll talk about it later.
That would have been such a killer segue. I'm just so used to you being the one who brings up the topics. I kind of tripped and fumbled there.
Happens. It happens. I know. I thought I'd switch it up.
Yeah. You really schooled me there. Okay,
I got you.
let me retry it. We are talking about the difference between a hobby and an obsession.
Yes. What's something that you casually do on your off time, and what is something that you'll sacrifice your family and your friends over just to feed into a little bit more, right?
The way you phrased that, it sounded like drugs.
I mean, to be fair, some people have drugs both as hobbies and obsessions, so I mean, like...
Fair enough. It's interesting because, like, the topic idea was we'd talk about verses. Like, when does a hobby become an obsession? But something can actually be both.
Yeah, it depends on how you view it.
I guess it's like not all obsessions are hobbies, but all hobbies could be obsessions.
I think a general way, we'll go into, like, specifics, but a general way to look at it is everyone has a different viewpoint on how valuable time and money is. Like, social relationships have a value to an individual, right? Time has value to everyone, and obviously money does. So some people might view how much, like, a person spends or how much time they spend on a certain thing. They'll think, that guy is crazy. That's an obsession. But to other people, that could be a hobby. Like,
Yeah, I think generally, and if you're asking yourself this question, a good way to look at it is what does the in-group consider a bunch, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, say you're into trading cards. Both of us are into trading cards, so this is a great example. You tell someone who's not into trading cards how much money you spend or how much time you spend with those and about those trading cards, you will absolutely blow their mind.
yeah, I've told some people at work, they give me some weird looks.
Yeah, but you go to the in-group and, like, other people who spend money on trading cards, you'll find out that you're not near the obsession line yet.
Yeah, bro, I think I spend a lot on, like, Magic. I really do. I'll go to the card shop and some guy will be like, yeah, I just dropped like $5,000 on a deck, and I'm like, huh? Bro, that's
Well,
like my entire collection.
I mean, some people have more money too, so you need to factor that in. But generally speaking, when you ask the in-group, hey, like, Overwatch, both of us are into Overwatch, or
Yeah.
just gaming in general, you know, you talk to your fellow gamers.
Fellow gamers.
Fellow
Gamers rise up.
Please stop.
I love gay men.
You talk to your fellow gay
Gay
men
men.
who do some time gaming, and you'll find, like, you know, dropping 100 hours a week into a game when you're really into it. You know, that sounds absolutely nuts to people who don't play video games regularly, but
You could look at like top pro streamers. That's like their job, you know, playing that amount. I mean, that's just day to day for them. But to us, it's like, oh my God, how could you even pull that off? I couldn't do probably 30 hours of Overwatch in a week. That would be hard to do.
yeah, there's also like chess. Chess is something I was very passionate about for a few months.
Near and dear to his heart.
I still kind of practice a bit, and I thought I was, like, damn near obsessed. But as it turns out, my numbers were rookie numbers, dude. I needed to crank them up to, you know, even compete with some people who, you know, play chess for a fucking living, I guess.
We don't necessarily want to discuss how time equates to skill. We're discussing hobbies versus obsessions.
But that's actually a really
Time-
good point, because if something is competitive, then you're going to spend way more time on it getting better so you can compete with more people.
Right.
So the obsession line becomes, it requires more time to get to an obsession line at that point.
I guess. Again, this is like something that comes down to the person you're asking, like, or the person you're telling. If you walk up to some epic gamer, you know, and say, hey, I dumped like 20 hours this week in Overwatch, you'd be like, oh yeah, cool, I dumped 30. And you'd be like, oh.
Or 100.
Damn. Yeah.
I didn't need to sleep or work.
You
Fuck
you go up to Grampy Paw from like World War II and you say, hey Grandpa, I just spent 8 hours playing a video game. He'll be like, huzzah! What?
Go outside and photosynthesize.
Go outside and kick a rock or something, you know? Like,
I guess maybe it's less of a hard numbers game and more of a mindset.
exactly.
A good way to look at it is, so say you have a life, right?
Yes.
Like you've got work, relationships, you keep your apartment clean, you do all those things. That is a life. And then you have, say, a game. You just dump like a bunch of hours in every week. If your mindset is, I'm working this job, I'm holding down these relationships, and I'm keeping this apartment clean so that I can more efficiently game, that's an obsession. But if you just happen to have enough free time lying around and just dump that many hours into the game without it being like your every waking moment, that's more of a hobby. Granted, it's a very intense hobby, but it's still a hobby.
Yeah. I think it just depends on when it starts eating away at like your other aspects of life, like your work and your social relationships. That's when it becomes an obsession.
What if your social relationships are tied into it? Like, say all of your friends are people that play this game, and that's how you interact with your friends. Like, we were like that for D&D for a while.
Yeah.
Like, does that become hobby obsession if you're exclusively socializing through one activity? Where does that qualify?
I'd say it's both yes and no. It's yes for everyone that is not included in that game, and it's no for everyone that is, because that's how you're tied through to them. You interact with them and keep your social relationship up while also investing time into that hobby. But you're spending that time with those people and not spending it with the other people. That's a trade-off you have to make sense of, you know.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, are you going to go play games for the night, or are you going to go hang out with this other friend, you know? Like, that's just a decision a lot of people have to make probably every day.
Part of what brought this topic up was the last time we recorded an episode, you got like really in the weeds about the Overwatch meta.
I did.
And, like Vagrant stats.
Yeah.
And like Magic the Gathering cards. And it's like, that's kind of, I hope people that like those things will listen to this podcast.
They can relate to it. I'm not sure if y'all do, but if you do, keep it real.
Keep relating to us. But regardless, it's like, hey, don't get so in the weeds. Some people haven't heard of or don't follow these things, and
that's why I kind of had to stop myself.
It was a neat temporary thought the two of us had. Like, where's a good point to stop?
Right. We don't want to, drag out the podcast too much.
Or just conversations with people.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing better than bumping into someone who's watched the same anime you have and has finished it. So the two of you can just go into it about like all of your favorite, fan theories, what's considered canon and what's not considered canon by the community.
Right.
Things like that. And just discuss the plot and, something you're passionate about with another person. There's nothing more interesting than that. But on the flip side of that, there's nothing less interesting than talking to someone who has, like, one interest. Say it's One Piece, right? You talk to Mr. One Piece, and all they talk about is One Piece. That's, like, the most uninteresting person in the world, especially if you don't give a shit about One Piece.
Exactly. Like, that's why it's good to have a varying set of interests. Don't just have one hobby, because that, for one, turns into obsession, but two, it makes you less sociable, because you don't have more to talk about.
Do you think that's actually a good different point of differentiation?
Yeah.
Like, if you've got multiple hobbies, then you're definitely... Then even though a couple of them might borderline on obsession, it's because you've broadened your interests a bit. There's not, like, a strict obsession.
You should be able to talk about at least something else. And not just, like, work or, like, people you talk to.
Mondays, am I right?
You should be able to jump from, like, hey, I was going to the gym or whatever. I did this is what I'm working on. And then you can hop to something like, hey, I'm, I don't know, pursuing some sort of education, and this is what I learned today or whatever. Like, something like that.
That's actually a good point. Is there anything that's healthy to be obsessed with? Like, if, say, you are Mr. Jim, or Mr. Jim, hi, Chase, or
We
Mr.
gotta stop
Collins.
referencing him. We gotta have him on here.
Yeah, we might interview Chase.
We need to clear the dust a little bit on who Chase is. He's our gym buddy. That's all
he-
we'll tell you right now.
He's our gym buddy. He screams.
He
He's
screams,
Mr. Jim.
He's Mr. Jim.
He's also blind and deaf.
And he can't remember anything past the last day. But he's a wonderful, wonderful person that we'll have on sooner or later. Maybe next episode, maybe 5 episodes down the line. We're figuring that out.
Mr. Jim.
Mr.
Anyway,
Jim.
if you're Mr. Jim or like Mr. College and that's like all you do, is that a healthy thing? Is that a good mindset to be in?
To be honest, no.
Really? There's nothing that's healthy to be obsessed with.
Not really, because the thing is, time is an indiscriminate resource. It doesn't matter if you're playing a game or you're going to college and pursuing a career. Well, yes, pursuing a career does have value in the end. Time's going to go by the same amount, and if you're not tending to your other things that, encompass your life as a whole, it's still on a quote-unquote obsession. It's not necessarily as bad, but it's still negatively influencing your other attributes. Like, if you're the bookworm that's sitting in their office and you're like scribbling down notes, it's like 2 a.m. You've been on the grind for like 10 hours, but you haven't talked to your parents in a week. You haven't taken the dog out. He's like he's shriveled up. He looks like Sheldon, bro.
Your plants are dying.
He be looking like the Draugr from Dark Souls, like, bro, take the fucking dog out, go see your parents. Go like talk to your homies. Like, even though you're learning and you're increasing your knowledge and that's awesome, you're actively ruining your life by doing that.
So basically, there are obsessions that can be productive.
There's
but
obsessions that can
generally,
be productive.
It's
but
important to attend to other aspects of life.
moderation.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Not to say that I'm the best at that, but hey, like, I don't think anyone's perfect at it.
It's nice when your social circle is filled with people that get it. The in-group, as it were. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't play chess, but I can tell you I've been on a chess kick, and you know what that means. That means I'm apologizing for not talking to you for a week, and I'm probably a little more short-tempered than normal because I've lost a lot of games at chess.
It happens. If I'm having a bad time on like comp,
Overwatch comp for
Overwatch
those
comp,
not
yeah.
in the know.
I'm not gonna have a good time. And to reference Chase again, yes, you guys don't know him, but referencing him, he's our gym guy. If he's not performing up to his standard and he's not lifting the right amount of weight, he's not gonna have a great day. Like, if he's poorly performed for the day, he will be pissy by the end of it, guaranteed, every time.
I guess generally that means it's a good... Maybe gym is a bad example, but if you're starting to get frustrated at your performance in something, whether or not it's a social activity, like I write a lot.
Yes.
And, I'm often very frustrated with my performance at writing, and sometimes it's a good reason to step back for a minute, sort of recollect, attend to your other hobbies, your social needs, your housework, maybe eat. If you haven't eaten for 10 hours, you should probably do that.
Eat. Hey, all you guys out there that haven't eaten for like 4 days, go get a burger.
Yeah, burgers aren't expensive. Go get a burger.
Burgers are expensive.
Unless
go
you're
get a chicken sandwich.
Unless you're a math person. Fuck you. Starve to death, math people.
You know what they're into.
You know what they're... Callbacks. They're into callbacks.
Sips coffee. You know what they're into.
Sips coffee.
Right. Okay, do you think we've covered the idea of how hobbies and obsessions kind of mix and meld, and how they also separate themselves from one another?
I think we've discussed that idea around its point of interest. There's probably more we could get into if we wanted to revisit it, though.
Okay, moving on to our next thing. Yeah. This is something we randomly talked about, like in the gym. We were discussing simulation theory. I forget what started the conversation. I think it was something stupid like Hollow Earth or whatever. I don't remember.
Please make us sound less like dumbasses.
We were memeing.
To put things on the record, clear the record, legal reasons, Minecraft. We both believe in
The Earth
the
is
current
spherical.
scientific definition that the world is an oblate spheroid, and are in no way endorsing or agreeing with the flat or hollow Earth theories.
Not even Halo Earth or whatever dumbass shape other people say.
I like the idea that Earth is shaped like a Mobius strip. which would explain how it's a globe, because you could technically go around it.
Right. We should get back onto our other theory, simulation theory.
Oh, yeah.
We're all living in a simulation. We're in a computer. We are beep boop beep boop binary code zeros and ones. How did this theory sprout up, and how can we disprove it?
Actually, this theory dates back to Renaissance era France.
Okay. Go on a little bit about it.
There was this French philosopher. I forget his first name. Should have done some research pre-recording, but that's okay. You're learning with me. But his last name was Descartes. He's most famous for the quote, "I think, therefore I am." Basically, Descartes, he got into a really big existential crisis one day, and he was like, I actually don't know if I exist. I can't prove myself or anyone else or even the Earth exists, because he came to the conclusion that his senses can lie to him, his memories can lie to him, everything he's thought about or perceived could lie to him. So he basically equated everything he had ever experienced or believed into a basket of apples. And he said, I need to dump the basket out, pull the bad ones out, and keep the good ones in. And that'll keep, like, my knowledge pure, right? And he actually only ended up putting 2 apples back in the basket. The first was he was a very religious man, and he was like, well, obviously something exists, so God made it. Which is a poor argument for God's existence, and not one I'm going to get into, because I'm not personally religious.
We're not having that discussion.
Well, we kind of are. We don't want to talk specifically.
Theory.
We don't want to talk specifically about God. But the other thing that
we're going to keep religion as far out of the whole simulation theory as we can, but it
probably
has some impact.
It'll probably brush up. But if you're religious, we're not going to shit talk you.
It is what it is. We're just delving into this topic because it's interesting.
The second apple, and the one that's topical to what we're discussing, that he put back into the basket, as it were, is he was like, I for sure exist. My body might not, but I know that I do, because I'm thinking. So I can prove that, on some level or another, I'm conscious, which is way more interesting, and what he became known for. Like I said, that's his most famous quote, and probably the only one people know him by at all. And it's a really neat idea that, so if you've ever had a very intense dream or done any kind of drugs, you'll know that your senses are not a reliable narrator. And if you've ever misremembered a detail, you'll know that your memory is way not a reliable narrator at all. But, you do have a thought process, so you can prove that you think, which is where simulation theory probably comes in. Descartes phrased it, I could be in a waking dream, which is about as close as you can get to simulation theory in Renaissance era France, pre-computers. Yeah. And interestingly enough, this particular conspiracy theory, I'm going to say in air quotes, hasn't gotten less popular. It's gotten more with the advent of computers. We're getting closer and closer to true VR, and, once we get there, it's hard to say for sure if we weren't in VR from the beginning.
Like the theory states, it could already be a simulation, but
it's tricky because it's impossible to prove against, right? It's kind of like God.
Right. Like, we can't play God. We can't just exit our bodies and see, what's behind the curtains, The most perception you'll ever receive in your life is your own. You only have your consciousness to view the world and existence through, and past that, that's it. That's all you get control of. So.
I can't prove Trevor exists. He can't prove I exist. I can't even prove you, dear listener, exist. But you can prove that you exist to yourself just by thinking.
You have that voice in the back of your head that it's your own head narrative,
Actually, that's not true.
Well, you don't think through your words,
Well, I do, and you do, obviously. But there's a solid, I think, 30% of people that don't have an internal monologue. Look it up; it's a real thing.
Internal monologue.
They just don't.
That's hard for me to understand, I guess, but that's just because that's how I think.
I guess they're just more impulsive and intuitive humans, probably on average, and they just don't have a voice thinking things through. I wonder if it's more common for them to be raised with multiple languages.
Do you have an internal monologue?
Oh yeah, it's probably twice as fast as my external monologue, so I often think way ahead of my words and slur my speech a little bit.
Yeah, you're thinking a million miles per hour, and then you say I don't know, Punjabi cat fart or something like that. I don't know.
I hope not.
Those words have been muttered. Maybe not in the same sentence, but you've definitely said those 3 words.
Sure. So back to simulation theory. What are your thoughts on it? Does it have any merit? Should we be worried that we're living in the plot of the Matrix movie?
The first thing I should touch on is that we shouldn't be worried. The thing is, you can't guarantee you're going to have any more existence past this one outside of religion. Religion does exist. There's probable belief to, like, be invested in that.
You can
That's
believe,
whatever.
you can't guarantee.
You can believe. You can't guarantee. Like, we don't have the proof.
Yeah.
Right? We don't have a proof of anything outside of reality, physics, stuff like that. Like,
And we can't even really prove that because...
we could be in a simulation, right?
Yeah.
The only thing that you could prove is that you think. So there's no reason to worry about it. There's no way to get past where you're already at.
Oh, that's a very stoic approach. Don't worry about what you can't control. Live
like a person. Don't live like a god.
Yeah, live based on what you can control. Mm-hmm. Which, yeah, that's actually a really good answer to anyone who's having, like, an existential crisis right now.
Yeah, that God, at least right now on our Spotify, it says, like, the podcast that talks about Hot Pockets and existential dread all in the same episode.
Yeah.
And we've certainly touched a lot on the existential dread, not so much on the Hot Pockets. That's for later, but we still got to finish this. What was the other question you asked? Outside of...
just what are your thoughts on it, and should we be worried were the two questions. So you answered the second one first.
Yeah. My thoughts on it, they kind of tie into worrying about it. You really shouldn't. It's a cool theory to think about, but at the end of the day, there's only so much that you can, like, put into it, Like, you can't just run an experiment, It's not a theory you could just prove just by having a lab. It's just something cool to think about.
I actually have a very strong argument against it, believe it or not.
Well, go ahead. Hit me. Not actually hit me, but,
Damn
speak to me.
For those of you that can't see us, which is all of you, I was very close to raising my hand at Trevor over here. Sorry,
He's
bud.
abusive.
Don't you spread that. They'll take you seriously.
I'm capping right now, for real.
Fuck you.
I'm straight capping.
Okay, so I have an argument against simulation theory, and that is a little thing I like to call the law of averages. So basically the way it usually works, it's used in like a social context. So if you say, don't have any friends, for instance, someone will tell you, go talk to more people because, maybe you don't get along with 80% of people, but there's 20% of people you do get along with. So you should interact with more and more people because, the number of people you can get along with isn't zero, so eventually you'll bump into that 20%. That's the law of averages. The law of averages really, really comes into play a lot with computers, believe it or not, because the people writing the code, yes, the people, the physical existing sentient people writing the code, they're not perfect. They might be 99.9% perfect. They might be as close to perfect at writing code as humans can possibly get, but they are not perfect. So, hear me out. Glitches always happen. We haven't written a perfect piece of computer code yet, and I don't think we ever will unless we figure out some complicated AI to write that code. It feels like glitches will just be part of computers for as long as computers exist, provided lack of nuclear apocalypse is probably going to be the rest of human history. Basically, my argument against simulation theory is where are the bugs and or glitches? Reality seems to function without a hitch almost perfectly. I haven't seen anyone Skyrim catapult across the quote-unquote map yet.
No, not gonna lie, that would be funny. That would be really funny, but we're not gonna get that.
I would honestly like real life a lot more if that kind of thing happened, but simulation theory kind of, it talks about it, but we've analyzed our world to an atomic level, and I have to think, like, if all this is being ran by a computer, where are the bugs? Where are the glitches? One atom fucks up somewhere, and we have a literal atomic bomb. Thousands and hundreds and billions of tiny calculations that a computer would have to be running billions and billions of times a second. It doesn't math to me that this could possibly be being simulated by a computer, at least as I understand computers and code to work.
I think, at least my input is that I think this theory works, but I don't think simulation's the right word for it.
Okay.
But I also couldn't necessarily say what the right word is for it. I just don't think comparing it to a computer program is correct.
I mean, that's the theory, but I'm curious to hear your take.
I guess the way to put it is the world true or is it fake? Because when you tie it to computers, you're tying it to reality.
Right, but that's
This
what
is-
simulation theory is. It's the idea that we're essentially living in the best VR experience, or that we're lines of code, sorry, in the best VR experience.
I don't think that's applicable. I don't think that's applicable to the reality that we live in. I think to a degree it's right, but when it's tied into simulation, it's wrong.
So you're saying that it's within possibility for there to be, say, a second plane or level of existence?
I think what I'm saying is it boils down to how real is reality.
I'd say, by definition, reality is the realest you can get. Unless you want to talk about, and I'd be down to talk about, Plato's realm of forms.
I'm not a philosopher, bro. You've got like the philosophy down. I wish I could even share an inkling of knowledge on it.
Okay, so you hinted at a concept in Greek philosophy. Basically, Socrates, or was it Plato? I don't know for sure. The two of them get mixed up a lot because one didn't write and one of them wrote exclusively about the other, so we don't know who said what. But basically, the end idea is picture a chair.
Yes.
Okay.
We're sitting in one.
You
sitting in one?
picturing a chair? How many
That's a
legs
chair.
does the chair have?
It has 4.
It has 4 legs?
There are 4 legs on that
Is
chair.
the chair made of wood, plastic, fiberglass?
Oh, it's wood.
Does it have a cushion?
No.
Does it have a back?
Yes.
Okay. If it didn't have a back, it'd be a stool, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I want you to picture that chair, and I want you to know that that is your idea of a chair. That is the chairiest chair.
The most cherished.
The chairest a chair can be. Okay, Plato's realm of forms kind of talks about the idea that ideas as a whole have more power than existing objects, almost. Because it's like, if you were to boil down what a human concept of something is, you'd recognize that nothing in existence perfectly matches its concept. So, like the chair you're sitting in doesn't have 4 legs. It has wheels.
It does.
And the chair you're sitting in does in fact have a back, but it has arms. The chair I'm sitting in doesn't. So Plato's realm of forms is the idea that if you were to average out every human's concept of every word, you would get the form of a thing. So we would know what the most chair a chair can be if you were to view the form of a chair.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't have a lot of input on that, but
Well,
that's very interesting to hear.
You had touched upon that idea, though. You were like, there's probably something realer than reality, and, you know, Plato actually had a thought about that way back in ancient Greece.
Damn, I'm Plato too, bro. Obviously, that's what this means. I'm Plato.
You're Plato the sequel.
Speaking of being Plato, I'm about to have a Plato moment, and so are you. We're going to kind of dump down from this existential dread that we're probably spreading through this discussion, but that was a very good discussion for real. That was great. We're going to talk about slang terms online. Like,
Yeah,
it is a
I
segue.
think that's about the furthest you can get from Plato, actually.
we just segued from like outer space and like true understanding of everything down to like, I don't know, a sewage drain.
It's lit, bro.
It's lit, bro.
This sewage drain is coated with the saw.
Yeah, let's go over all those stinky words you just said.
Oh, all of them?
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go over the first one. Goat. Now,
Goat.
this is probably the only one on the list that I actually had a completely different like understanding of. I thought it stood for God of all things.
Yeah, for reference, we looked all of these up before the podcast and
We
read
kinda-
some like boomer website where a mom broke down
Yeah,
like what these words mean.
We knew what most of them meant, but we wanted to see like, I don't know, your average like middle-aged
Parents understanding.
yeah. And we kind of compared that. So, goat means greatest of all time,
Not God of all things.
not God of all things. I
which,
think
which
I heard,
sounds like the Christian Bible camp version of that.
I heard that from a lot of music, not very Christian music, but it was from music.
It was
So,
from music.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I guess let's go into the slang word a bit. The first time I heard goat, it was talking about the meta back in Overwatch 1.
Oh god. Oh, like goats, double shield.
Yeah.
Okay, there's certain tank heroes that can deploy a shield that can soak up pretty much anything.
The meta, let's boil things down
Yeah.
for people who haven't played.
Basically, 2 shields, they suck everything up. No one gets to deal damage to the other team. No one has fun.
Goats was basically the idea that, these tank heroes can do enough damage and they have enough sustain. You basically don't need any of the other heroes. So it was just a team full of tanks and then like maybe one person to heal them a little bit.
God damn. We already got off topic. We haven't even gotten through the second word.
Well, I mean, we're talking about goats. So that's how I heard goats.
I guess that's
referred to the meta. That was the first experience I had with the word, and I thought it meant something different, but no, it's just goat.
That is kind of interesting, though, that both of us perceived it as something that is completely different from the boomer reference, greatest of all time. I don't know if people actually use it to describe things, because I've seen God of all things on more than just lyrics. Like, people use it that way, too.
I think how it works is slang terms, in general, sort of more refer to an idea than an actual definition. So, like, when you're saying someone's the GOAT, you might be saying they're the god of all things, or the greatest of all time, or whatever. But really, you're trying to pay them, like, a compliment, like, hey, you're doing really well. You're MVP, you know?
You're essentially calling them the MVP.
Yeah, you're the best. You are the one. The one, Yosan, who don't need a gun.
Shut the fuck up. Okay, we're going on to lit. Which, I just wrote good here, but on the website they put good, comma, good. Why they needed to put good twice, I have no clue.
That's fun.
That's cringe.
It's good and good. Lit is good squared.
Good squared, bro.
The math equation is L equals G2.
Are you sure it's not additive, or is it multiplicative?
Is it multiplicative? Is it G squared?
Or is it 2...
The math equation for lit is L equals G squared, or is it L equals 2G?
I think it's L equals 2G.
Okay.
Because, like, you're not getting good times good. Let's shut the fuck up and figure out, like, why is lit equal to good? Why do we use lit as just to positively describe something?
I think it's because fire was first. Fire, the origins for that particular slang term, this is my understanding of things. People used to use the fire emoji to, like, say something was hot or good or whatnot, and they would just spam it in, like, Twitch chats and whatnot. Which turned into people calling things fire, unironically, just as a word.
I think another way to look at it is that, one, red and shades close to red are a very alarming color. So that could be something. It brings a lot of attention
Well, I
to
mean,
something.
the fire emoji just also meant hot.
I mean, yeah, but...
And then eventually calling something fire devolved further into calling something lit, as slang terms usually do. They sort of evolve, but backwards.
they become stupider or whatever.
They get shorter and shorter, and the, like, meanings and definitions of a slang term get more and more esoteric.
I also, I had a side note next to lit, because they also had on the website, Liddy again.
Never heard that.
No one has said that.
I'm sure there's someone who's living in, like, a big city who's heard that term.
I'm sure that it has only been muttered in the hundreds of times. Like,
hundreds of times.
The definition
by one
given,
guy.
The definition given was like, it's good, but again, like
when you play a good song, it's been Liddy again, I guess.
This is Gungang Gingang speak, bruh.
Interestingly enough, I think lit is way more cringe than goat.
I mean, yeah. But maybe that's because of the amount of, like, times it's been used. Like, I don't hear people say goat as much as people say lit.
I bet it has something to do with, like, what kind of clique you fit into, right? And I'm sure
if you were in a different clique, like a sort of a hype beast clique, lit would just be, like, part of your second language, you know?
I hate to clickify people, but it's like, you associate certain negative personalities with certain slang terms, and you're like, okay, these people use those kinds of words. I don't like these people usually, so I'm going to avoid these words usually. Which is why we say goat quite a lot, but we rarely utter the term lit.
Right. So, salty.
Salty.
You know this one pretty well. Someone gets upset, someone starts typing on their keyboard, getting sweaty, saying like, oh, you're trash, you're bad, or, you know, someone's in person and they're losing an argument and they're like, you know, they start resorting to unreasonable means, you know, they start saying things that don't contribute to the conversation whatsoever.
Interestingly enough, salty probably started with video games. So my understanding of the word is, do you remember when calling people sweaty was a thing?
Yeah.
Like when they were trying too hard and getting very angry?
Yeah, salty is probably a deviation from sweaty, because salt and sweat.
Yeah, it refers to because calling someone salty is like, calling someone sweaty is when you're playing a video game and you think they're sweating because they're trying very hard to win the video game.
They're super focused, they're sweaty. I've done it sometimes. You actually do get sweaty if you're trying hard enough.
Yeah.
Which is weird. You're just sitting in a chair.
So when someone's trying really hard and they're getting angry, is probably where salty came from, because it's like, bro, you're sweating so much, you're salty.
Though I think sweaty and salty have a slight deviation, because sweaty does not always necessarily mean bad. It
Or
means
angry.
that, yeah, it usually means, like, it can be used in tandem with salty, but sweaty more so refers to the more focused player. It's a much more neutral term compared to salty, which is almost always used in a negative fashion.
I mean, when you're talking about slang terms and trash talk and being online, it's rarely neutral. It's almost always negative. I guess sweaty is probably one of the least negative terms for people.
I mean, I've seen salty way more than I've seen sweaty.
Yeah.
So there's that. Let's go to sheesh. Sheesh.
I actually don't know anything about sheesh. It just randomly became a thing friends would start saying because they saw it online.
Sheesh is to express shock or whatever, but like in a positive way.
It's positive shock.
It's positive shock, which I don't have
Like
a lot
she
of
stands
input on.
up, she's got a bigger ass than you thought.
Sheesh.
Something like that, I guess.
When you get a free chicken nugget in your 10-piece nugget, sheesh.
I know that it has something to do with the ice in your veins thing, but I don't know anything about that.
What?
Yeah, so there was a trend online where you would check someone's age by saying, "Do you have ice in your veins?" And if they responded by grabbing a vein in their arm and sort of holding it down and saying "sheesh," that means that they're young. And if they look at you like you're fucking stupid,
And that
then
means they're old and boomer
and boomer.
cringe. Okay.
And I am in fact old and boomer and cringe because I don't know the origins to any of that. It's probably got something to do with rap music because that's where most of those things come
Yeah,
from.
most likely. I don't have a lot of background on this, though I do hear it quite often, so
You
that's
say it
interesting.
kind of often too,
I do sometimes. Fire, and next to it, straight fire.
as opposed to gay fire.
We kind of already went over just fire with lit, because it's kind of a variation of that. It's like the older brother to it. It's
Yeah.
what spawned lit.
Interestingly enough, calling people hot or things hot is also a slang term. So I guess lit is like a third-time generation slang term.
Bro, think about this. We're just cavemen. Because we'd be obsessing over fire and shit. We'd be applying fire to, like, things we like. Ooga booga, caveman brain, go, fire? Fire, that fire. I like that thing, that fire. Ooga booga. That's a way to put it.
It is.
Anyone that uses fire or lit or hot is caveman brain. And not to say that's a bad thing, because sometimes I do it. I go caveman mode.
People like to think we're more evolved and more enlightened since, the age of the caveman. But I honestly don't think so. I think it's still monkey brain.
I think it's still monkey brain.
We've had enough monkey brains make our lives easier and easier.
We're still monkey, but, like, we're that one monkey with, like, the top hat and the bow tie. What, the one from Madagascar 2 that's got, like, the tuxedo and shit on?
Yeah.
We're all like those monkeys.
Yeah, we're talking and wearing clothes, but we're still monkey brain.
We're still monkey. This is one of those existential thoughts. Think about it. You are really monkey.
You think things that are good equate to fire? Monkey.
Monkey.
Go back to inventing the wheel.
Okay, going on to the next one. This one's stupid. Tope. It's not dope. I honestly kind of forget. This one was a combination of dope and another word.
Totally.
Totally.
It's
so
totally
it's just
dope.
totally
It's
dope.
Tope.
Why you can't just say totally dope? I don't get it.
I think I'm pretty sure this is a parent thing. I don't think this was ever said by anyone ever.
Under the age of 40.
I think parents saw this online once as like a misread and were like, that must be a mix of totally and dope.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's like a stoner thing. Maybe it's like toke, but dope, so it's...
I don't think
Tope?
that's going anywhere. I don't think any stoner out there... Hey, if you're a stoner, tell us about your experiences using the word taupe. Because you guys have definitely used that. There's definitely a human being that has used that word. Okay, the best word on this list, maybe, bruh.
Bruh.
This is such a universal word.
Bruh.
We use the word all the time, bruh.
I don't know if it's universal. In the UK, they say bruv.
They say bruv, but it's a deviation.
Is it, though? I think...
It depends, because bruv can also kind of mean, like, bro and love. Kind of like your love bro, or whatever.
I thought it was just the UK accent trying to say bro or bruh.
I mean, bruh is... The thing is, its definition has become so warped because of how people use it. Like, our definition of bruh, it can be good, it can be bad, it could be referring to random things.
We should probably start from the beginning.
Yeah, bruh is initially, at least by how the website and also the general web describes it, is another term for bro.
Kind
So
of.
it's stupid. It's a stupid version of bro.
Sort of though, right? Because you say bro as like sort of a pet name for your friends, kind of
Yeah.
like you would say honey to a significant other.
Yeah.
But bruh. Bruh is usually used as like an exclamatory, right? Bruh is like cussing at one of your friends without needing to call them a fuck ass or something.
Right.
Like you look at them, say someone drops a carton of eggs, you turn around and you're like, bruh, come on.
I think a good way to kind of pinpoint what it means is introducing the word moment, because you would describe so many things
Bruh
as a bruh
moment.
moment. Like, oh no, you shit your pants, bruh moment. You dropped all the groceries down like a flight of stairs, and they are all now in a messy puddle at the bottom of the stairwell. That's a bruh moment.
I don't know how universal bruh moments are. I feel like bruh moments are specifically a Trevor thing.
Bruh moments happen to everyone. It's not just a me thing.
No, I think you're the one who uses it that way though. I think you pioneered the term bruh moment, and most people are probably thinking, what the fuck's a bruh moment? Those people out there thinking, what the fuck's a bruh moment? That's a bruh moment right there.
All right. Going on to thirsty.
Ah.
So thirsty.
So apparently boomers think thirsty means strongly desiring something. That is not what thirsty means.
I
You're
mean,
close.
to an extent, it's
You're
right,
close.
but it's much more niche than that.
It's
about
sexual.
porn. It's about porn.
It's sexual. It's sexually needing something.
If you go on like Pornhub, I go on Pornhub specifically to watch the Lego builds.
And also for research purposes.
For research purposes, but mainly for the Lego builds, because there's this one guy, I forget what his name is. I think his name is like Forklift Official or something like that, and he builds Legos. Really cool guy. Check him out. But anyways, if you go on like a normal porn video and you scroll down, you'll see some guy that's like, "Oh baby, I want to suck your feet" and stuff like that. That guy's thirsty.
Yeah.
That guy mad thirsty.
Also, believe it or not, it's also kind of a gamer word.
It is a gamer word,
because
a lot of gamers are thirsty.
when you're trying to secure a kill in any kind of video game, or just win a video game really, really hard, you're kill thirsty or you're win thirsty, or so far so it continues on and on.
If I'm playing Overwatch, for example, and I decide, hey, I'm going to use my movement ability and get straight into the middle of the team,
You're
so I
being
can kill
thirsty.
I'm getting thirsty. I'm thirsty for the kill, right?
Yes.
So
I guess it's strongly desiring something, but it has like a more raunchy undertone than
like it's applicable to other things, but like it's mainly for porn.
It's mainly for porn.
Yep.
Well, I guess for like sexual favors in general, because if a guy is mad simping, then he's thirsty.
Then he's thirsty. A simp is thirsty.
You ever just speak Greek? Mad thirsty.
We've got a weird one here, and I've never seen this. I don't think you did either.
Yeah.
So we were on that website, and we found this. It's just the number 9, and they said it's short for "a parent is watching."
I actually thought about this. I think it's because 9 looks like a backwards P. So if you're trying to signal that like a parent is watching over text, you can just send a 9 with no context, and someone can autocorrect that to short for parent. I have no idea if that's actually what it means.
I have a feeling, and
I think whatever boomer wrote the websites just got
what I'm
trolled.
thinking. The boomer that was writing the review and the list or whatever, they probably have a kid, and that kid was getting watched by them, and they used the word 9. And then they figured out that's probably, dude, lore. Gamer lore. Okay.
I don't know if 9's a real word. I'm gonna put it in Tope as like a word that was maybe used by some people, but
Probably used by the author.
It did not enter the lexicon, right?
No. All right, we're going on to sauce. This is kind of tied into thirsty. So when people are thirsty, they'll usually ask for sauce.
Well, they want the source. So like if you see a clip to a video that gets your jimmies in a twist, you'll ask for the source. And the source got shortened to sauce, mostly on Reddit, I think.
Yeah, typically it's porn, but it also refers to things like I'll see really funny videos that were stolen sometimes from like another source, and a guy will ask for sauce because they want the original video.
Or like if you're watching someone's YouTube video that's been clipped on TikTok,
they want to find the original channel, so they'll say sauce.
They'll say sauce.
Sauce question mark?
Sauce.
Essentially, it's the stinky gamer version of source, because for some reason gamers can't write source. Moving on to...
Well, hold on. someone can also be goated with the sauce. What does that mean?
No fucking clue, bro. Like, honestly, goated with the sauce, that's like...
Greatest of all time with the source to your porn video.
The only thing you say that with is goated with the sauce, busting it down sexual style. Like, shut up.
I don't even...
You are speaking monkey language, bro.
I'm not 100% sure what that means or what that's supposed to, but it sounds good to say. It sounds like a very high compliment. It's sort of like the gamer way of saying, you're a gentleman and a scholar. You're goated with the sauce.
No. What's that one phrase that we made up in the gym? Like, let us encroach forth, or whatever.
Oh,
what was that was the verbose version of, let's get it? Something like that?
No, it's, curse it, we encroach. Fuck it, we ball.
Yeah, we made a verbose version of fuck it, we ball. So if you feel like saying fuck it, we and ball, but you are in the presence of gentlemen and other high-class beings, say, curse it, we encroach.
It's not fuck it, we ballin'. It's curse it, we encroach.
For all you 1850 fellas with Garand rifles.
Hey, slide into my DMs, 1850 people.
Curse it, we encroach.
Curse it, we encroach.
All right, moving on to our next term, sus.
Sus.
You're sussy baka, suspicious.
You know way more about this from me because this was an Among Us thing. It was short for suspect.
Among Us. Yes, this was an Among Us thing. Like, no one used it before Among Us, and it was like, oh, you're suspicious. You get a timer based off of how long it takes for you to, like, talk and point out who this suspect is. And suspicious is quite a long term, so I could see why people would shorten it to sus. That makes sense. But sus
I'm
describes
amazed
anything
just
suspicious.
How much that took off from like a niche use in a video game, you know?
I know. Like, people use sus, and I could kind of see why, because unlike like Tope or whatever, it kind of makes sense, because suspicious, like, it can be difficult for people to say too. Not only is it long and arduous to spell, but it's suspicious. I could see why some people, especially with like fucked up teeth. Yeah, suspect.
It's also a way to like accuse someone of being gay, I think.
I mean,
because if someone is like looking at dudes' asses all the time, they're mad sus.
Usually it's used in a very comical purpose, though.
Yeah,
like,
I've only ever heard of sus being used in a joking manner.
That's like some dude is looking at some other dude's ass, and he just does like the Rock eyebrow raise, and it's got like the vine booms like, oh hell no. It's just like some other shit happens. That's a sus moment. That's a sussy moment.
Someone can also be acting kind of sus, bruh.
So, to put it simply, acting sus is acting in a way that is either unnatural or devious in manner, usually sexual.
It took a long time for me to use sus because the word seems so cringy.
It's cringe. When you at least look at like the whole Among Us thing, but considering how much of an impact it has had on the modern vocabulary, it's really not that bad.
I love
just
how,
don't look back at Among Us.
I love how events ripple out, right? Because everyone was stuck inside, and all non-essential businesses were closed for COVID. So we didn't get very many good video games that year.
No.
And people were also stuck inside, so they were gaming more than ever.
Yep. We had what that year? Doom Eternal?
Hold on.
Animal Crossing?
Don't sidetrack. Don't sidetrack.
All right. I'll stick with you here.
Okay. So, suddenly, Among Us comes out. It is a game you can play socially with a bunch of people, so it takes off because of timing.
Among Us timed it well.
Because of Among Us, we have the word sus. So if it wasn't for COVID-19...
we wouldn't be sussy bakas right now. Think about it. Think about it, guys.
I just love how events ripple out like that. Like, we had a virus, so this video game was popular, so now we have a slang term. Like, what do you think having sus in the vocabulary will lead to? How many ripples do you think this will send into the timeline?
I think we just live in a society. So the word finna, this word's dumb, in my opinion. It's dumb. Finna essentially means like I'm going to, or I'm about to. It's supposed to shorten that. So instead of saying I'm about to go for a walk, you say I'm finna go for a walk. Like, you just sound dumb.
I think it's a
hot take.
It might be a Deep South kind of thing, because
Maybe.
down there they like kind of shorten like 5 words into one. So if you want to call someone a motherfucker, you say they're an MFer or MFer, and like people can auto translate like grunts to full sentences down there.
Yeah, for real.
So, I mean, finna might be one of those that sort of crept up into pop culture somehow.
Yeah, I could see that if it's like based off of a regional thing. I get that, but I just don't
Kind of like bruv.
Yeah, kind of like
As
bruv.
accents
Bruv
get
is a deviation.
That's
of
actually
bruh.
super interesting. Like as more and more accents get exposed to more and more online, that they become slang terms that like more
real.
people use.
Everyone out there, let us know if any of the words we've listed off have any interesting deviations you'd like to share. So, glow up. This is kind of related to like the light skin stare. They do the rock eyebrow raise and they like put on a glow filter or whatever. They puff out their lips, stuff like that.
Not what I thought glow up meant at all.
Oh, well, that's more of describing the light skin stare. The glow up has an effect on the light skin stare. It's basically to be like, okay, see this guy or this girl or whoever, they're ugly, and then you have like, I normally see it like on TikTok or YouTube, like it'll be just this random normal looking person and then they'll just like put on a filter and then they'll like put on a bunch of makeup or whatever and then they'll play like, I don't know, Chad music in the background or whatever and they'll be like glow up.
I've actually only ever seen the word glow up, the phrase glow up, refer to anime characters. So like they'll show like Rock Lee pre and post his training arc and be like, who had the best Naruto glow up? And that is my single exposure to the word.
I know what the glow up thing came from. You know the Alvin and the Chipmunks image where it's like, who's getting the best head? that's where the glow up meme came from. Who got the best glow up, bro? This is stupid. We're almost done here. We've got thick. Thick's not that hard to describe. You ever seen a booty, but like big? That's a thick booty.
I like thick because when you're texting it, you can add emphasis or take it away. Like if you say something's thick, but you only put one C, then it's like, oh, okay, it's reasonable. If you say something's thick, but it's in all caps, it's
like, damn, boy, that's a dumpster.
But also there's like more variations. Like you can put thick with 3 C's but no K. Something can be thick. You can also put thick with no C and a K, and I don't know what that means, but I've seen it, so I know that it refers to something.
We should definitely spend like part of an episode talking about thick lore and describing, like, we'll take different variations of thick being texted and try and like compare it to images.
We should totally. We'll do some research into like different ways things have been referred to as thick.
Coming down the pipeline, we'll talk about thick lore.
Thick lore.
Thick lore. All right?
Before we get to the last word, there is one I'd like to throw in as a bit of a surprise dark horse because I think it sort of encapsulates why talking about slang terms is interesting. Cringe.
Oh no.
Walk me through it.
Cringe.
What's cringe?
Cringe used to be used pretty universally, but it's like a 4chan thing now, and that's it. Anyone that uses the word cringe now is cringe. I just used it, and I probably used it earlier, so I am cringe.
We've said cringe like at least 10 times talking about it, and I was like, that's a word we should probably discuss.
It's such a gamer word.
Interestingly enough, it's like actually... like, it's not super a slang term. It's just a word that became way more popular after the advent of the internet.
So to simply describe cringe, it's something that brings disgust or just overall you dislike whatever you're viewing and it makes you cringe. It's a reaction to something negative.
I think it's usually referred to as like a intense emotional or physical reaction to like negative stimuli.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. You
cringing
see, like,
is almost a physical experience because like your face muscles will clench up, and sometimes you'll feel something in your gut that's just like, I shouldn't have seen that.
I think it's more so the reason why I don't like the word is because you've ever watched like those cringe compilations? I unfortunately did long ago in the day when Vine was a thing.
Unfortunately, long ago in the day after Vine was a thing, you've shown me cringe compilations. Vine was long dead, and we were in high school, and you were like,
sad. I hate high school memes.
Here's 10 cringe videos I found on YouTube.
Okay. So you know what people will do for cringe videos? They'll look at like a video of like a kid doing like a Fortnite dance or whatever, and they'll like it's some 30-year-old dude, and they'll be like, "Oh, that's so cringe! I'm a gamer and I don't like Fortnite. That's bad. That's gay." Or like maybe a kid doing like a TikTok dance to like, I don't know, some popular song or whatever. people also go, "Ooh, that's cringe," and I'm not free from that either. Sometimes I do that, not perfect, but overall, that's not a good way. Use cringe. Like if you're cringing to something, you're going to want to avoid it, right? For those specific cringe compilations, they're continuing to view something that they dislike, and they're reacting to it in a similar manner.
I mean, people like horror is a very popular genre of film, right?
Yes.
So people are probably drawn to things that bring them some level of discomfort. So I can see why people would like watching cringe videos. Like someone's listening to our podcast right now.
Yeah,
that's pretty cringe.
That's pretty cringe, bro. Why are you listening?
Don't stop, please.
Don't
No,
stop.
no, we need
Don't
you.
stop. It's okay. You can be cringe with us.
Yeah. Join me, cringe brother.
So I think we've gone over cringe pretty well. The last word we have here is based. This is definitely the most based out of the terms on this list.
Okay, so let's. I have an amazing idea for this last word. We're both going to talk about our first exposure to the word and see where things evolve from there. So, how do you know based? What was your first exposure to based?
Okay, so you know when GigaChat existed, like he first came into fruition.
You got to tell the viewers at home who GigaChat is.
GigaChat is this edited model. He's meant to be like the peak masculine man, and there's a video of him with that song "Can You Feel My Heart" playing in the background, and he's like, it's just these grayscale photos of like this super buff, super hot dude, and it just pans over him while it's playing like this half screamo, half electronic music, and it's like, oh, he is everything. He's so hot. Oh, he's what someone would describe as just a based individual.
So I first heard based in reference to, I'm gonna say, very hot takes. So like if someone is like shouting at the top of their lungs, you know, something abhorrently racist,
controversial,
or sexist, or controversial, the tagline is usually based.
The thing is, based can be used in two very, very different contexts. One that's ironic, and then one that's not. Make sure that people know that it's ironic, because if you're just saying based to someone like screaming slurs, I guess it kind of comes with, if you already know about internet culture and the like, and you see someone saying based underneath just the worst garbage ever.
It's weird because it can mean something that's controversial but correct, and it can also mean something that's controversial but wrong, and it can also mean just that's offensive and I'm gonna laugh at it.
It's very broad.
I think based is one of those words that's just so fun to say, and it scales so well with so much of what's happening online.
It's kind of like bruh. It scales very well.
Bruh,
it's definitely one of the
based.
most OP slurs out there.
It's
slurs.
OP.
Sorry, slang. It is not a slur.
I mean, it could be. Slurs are based.
That's a positive slur right there.
Oh, no.
Hey, you're based. I'm hurt. Well, that's all the terms we have, and that's also all the main topics we have. Do you have anything you want to discuss before we close this out?
Oh yeah, miscellaneous things, just stuff that's going on.
You go first.
I go first? Okay. Let me think for a second.
Okay. I guess I'll go over mine. Magic the Gathering just released Phyrexia All Will Be One.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to pre-release. That was an awesome time.
Was that your first pre-release?
That was my first, limited constructed experience.
Cool, you're speaking Greek to so many people right now.
In pre-release, you open some packs, and you make a deck out of the cards that come out of those packs. And, yeah, it's a good time. You get a little toolkit, you pay admission, you get to keep those cards after the event is done, and if you do well enough with your deck playing against people in 1v1s, you get to take promos and packs home. Like, some of the reward system's actually very good, and it's usually not that expensive to get admission, and unless you're really unlucky, you actually make some of your money back on the cards. Like, I think I got an $11 card, a $6 card. It makes up.
I got one of the chase rares of the set in foil.
Yeah,
so,
you did. That's like $25 right there.
Yeah.
That one card you got basically paid for the box.
It pays for the price of admission, yeah.
You don't walk out feeling bad, even if you lose, because they hand out packs to everyone. Just whoever does better gets more. But...
Trev's kind of burying the lead. He came in 5th out of 43 potential contestants. That's the best he's done in a competitive event at Magic ever.
I'm gonna be real, that's kind of luck based. But
you did kind of 2-0 the first match against whoever the hell Bai was.
Yeah,
There was an odd number of people, so the first game he had,
that was a 1 in 43 chance, and I just basically got a free pass. Like, hey, you automatically won. You didn't have to go up against anyone.
you were
I was like,
in
okay,
you were in the top 20 just for showing up.
just for showing up, bro.
So I mean, maybe you.
That was influenced by luck heavily, but it was a good time.
Yeah.
So, what about you?
Since you talked about something positive, I think I gotta drag the mood down before we finish the podcast.
We can't do that. We gotta leave off on a light note.
We'll leave off on a light note.
Okay.
I was light because I was pale. What's the least amount of sleep you've gotten and then done some things you shouldn't have? Probably none. We've all pulled all-nighters into things before.
Yeah.
So I pulled an all-nighter into a 4-hour nap into a 2-hour nap, and I felt like absolute death the other day.
Bro is cascading into mania at this point.
Hey.
That would make sense, though. You are a mania.
This is Cascading into Mania podcast.
Capri Sun Men podcast.
I guess I did want to talk about sleep deprivation for just a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because it was a miscellaneous thing I thought of.
Sure.
And interestingly enough, I found that there are some really neat ways you can remain some level of cognitive function on little sleep. And I don't recommend depriving yourself of sleep to any of the viewers, but if you do, time the caffeine crash, which is usually about 6 hours after consumption of caffeine, is when you feel the crash. Keep your calorie intake kind of high, but avoid foods that put you to sleep. So think like Thanksgiving dinners, lots of grains and proteins.
Avoid bread at all costs.
Well, I mean, not at all costs. Just don't eat a lot of it.
Yeah.
And also, eat more than you normally would. That kind of thing can keep you going for long periods of time if you don't have the time or you're like me and you just can't sleep.
Yeah, bro's been min-maxing being awake. Which to an extent is cool, but...
I wish it was. The trick with coping... I'm kind of an insomniac. The trick with coping with not having a lot of sleep is you need to understand that you're not capable of doing some things. So like I'll just be sitting there low energy for a few hours and just feel very useless because it's like, man, I wish I could be doing something productive.
I feel that sometimes. And I get a normal amount of sleep, bro. It's cool. At
Yeah.
least you got that extra time up.
Yeah, there you go. That's something.
That's a way to look at it, but I'm not necessarily saying it's a good thing. Like, always make sure you get a decent amount of sleep. Minimum 6. If you're sleeping any less than that, you're hurting yourself.
Agreed.
I'm not gonna, like, I spent so many days in high school because I was a rotten little kid, staying up and then getting like 2 hours of sleep and then going to school. First period English, taking a nap, just right there on the spot. Don't do that. Get your sleep. It's important for cognitive function.
Mm-hmm. But if you're like me and that's out of your control, or you're like Trev and you're a party animal, those tips should help. Just space your caffeine intake so the crash doesn't hit during important times, and eat more than you would. Eat less grains and protein because those will put you to sleep.
Also, don't overdo it on caffeine. That's how I got kidney stones. That's not a good time.
That's another
Trust
story,
me.
though.
That's another story for another time.
All right. You have anything else you want to touch on?
No, I think we should end it there.
All right. What is this? The Cascading into Mania?
I started off with Capri Sun Men.
Capri Sun Men? What was mine? Capricious Madness or something?
Capricious Madmen.
Capricious Madmen.
I'm Capri Sun. He's Madman. And we've been Complimentary Mania.
Signing off!
Thank you for listening. We'll see
Bye.
you next time.